If you've ever sat in front of your screen and said, "This time I'll stay calm. This time I'll follow my plan," only to watch yourself break that promise an hour later, this video might explain why. Because the truth is, most traders are not losing to the market. They're losing to what happens inside their own minds while they're trading. You take a loss, you feel frustrated, you tell yourself it's okay. Then 10 minutes later, you're in another trade that wasn't part of your plan, and somehow that trade feels justified. But deep down, you know what happened. You weren't trading the market anymore. You were trading your emotions. And until you understand why that happens, controlling your emotions will always feel impossible. Here's the first thing you need to understand. You cannot eliminate emotions from trading. That's not the goal. The goal is to stop emotions from making decisions for you. Many traders believe professional traders don't feel fear. They don't feel anxiety. They don't feel frustration. That's simply not true. Professional traders feel all of those things. The difference is they don't obey them. Think about that for a second. You think emotional control means not feeling emotions. In reality, emotional control means feeling them without acting on them. That's a completely different skill, and once you understand that distinction, everything starts to change. Let's look at a common situation. You enter a trade. The setup is good, the risk is defined. Everything follows your plan. Then the trade moves slightly against you. Nothing significant, nothing unusual. But suddenly, your mind starts creating stories. What if this is a loser? What if I lose money again? What if I'm wrong? Now your focus shifts away from the process and toward the outcome, and that's where emotional trading begins. Because your brain doesn't actually hate losing money. It hates uncertainty. The market is uncertainty in its purest form. You can do everything correctly and still lose. For many traders, that's difficult to accept. They want certainty before taking action. But certainty doesn't exist in trading. Professional traders understand this. Amateur traders fight it. Professionals ask, "Did I execute my edge correctly?" Amateurs ask, "Will this trade win?" One question focuses on process, the other focuses on prediction, and prediction creates emotional attachment. But here's where things get dangerous. Most traders think their biggest emotional problem is fear. It's not. It's the need to be right. Watch what happens after a losing trade. You move your stop loss, then move it again. Then convince yourself you're giving the trade room to breathe. But deep down, you're avoiding one thing: accepting that you're wrong. The loss isn't painful because of the money. The loss is painful because your ego became attached to the trade. And when your identity becomes connected to being right, every losing trade feels like a personal attack. This is why some traders can lose a small amount of money and completely lose emotional control. The issue was never the money. The issue was ego. Here's a practical exercise. Before entering a trade, ask yourself, if this trade loses exactly as planned, will I be emotionally okay with that? If the answer is no, your position size is probably too large. Or you're emotionally attached to the outcome. Either way, that's valuable information. Now let's talk about something traders rarely notice. Emotions don't usually destroy accounts during losing streaks. They destroy accounts during recovery attempts. Think about the last time you had a bad day. You took one loss, then another. Then suddenly, a new objective appeared. Not following your system, not managing risk, recovering the money. At that moment, your brain stopped thinking like a trader and started thinking like someone trying to escape emotional discomfort. You think you're chasing profits. In reality, you're chasing relief. That's why revenge trading feels so powerful. The next trade isn't about opportunity, it's about emotional escape. The market becomes your therapist, and that's an expensive therapy session. Professional traders understand something crucial. A losing trade requires acceptance. A losing streak requires patience. Most traders have neither. So here's a practical rule. After 2 consecutive losses, stop trading temporarily. Not because your strategy stopped working, because your emotional state has changed. Your decision-making quality matters more than the next setup. And speaking of decision quality, Here's a realization that transformed my own trading. Emotional control doesn't happen during the trade. It happens before the trade. Most traders wait until they're emotional before trying to become disciplined. That's like trying to build a parachute after jumping from the plane. Preparation creates emotional stability. Professionals decide their risk before entering. Professionals accept potential losses before entering. Professionals define exit rules before entering. Notice the pattern. The difficult decisions are made while calm, not while emotional. Because once money starts moving, your brain changes. Fear gets louder. Greed gets louder. Hope gets louder. Your ability to think objectively decreases. That's normal. The solution isn't becoming emotionless. The solution is reducing the number of emotional decisions you need to make. Now, here's something most traders completely misunderstand. Confidence does not come from winning. It comes from consistency. Many traders believe more profits will make them emotionally stable, but you've probably experienced the opposite. You've had winning days and still felt anxious. You've had profitable weeks and still doubted yourself. Why? Because confidence built on outcomes is fragile. One losing streak can destroy it. Real confidence comes from trusting your process, knowing that regardless of what happens today, you'll continue executing your edge tomorrow. That's the confidence professionals develop, not confidence in winning, confidence in execution. And there's one final concept I want you to remember. Every emotional reaction in trading is trying to tell you something. Fear might be telling you your risk is too large. Frustration might be revealing unrealistic expectations. Overconfidence might be warning you that success is becoming dangerous. Emotions are information. They become problems only when they become instructions. That's an important distinction. You don't need to silence your emotions. You need to stop taking orders from them. Because the market isn't testing whether you can predict the next move. Thousands of traders can identify setups. Thousands of traders can learn strategies. The real test begins when fear tells you to exit early. When greed tells you to increase size. When frustration tells you to revenge trade. When hope tells you to ignore your stop. And in those moments, the traders who survive aren't the ones with the strongest strategy. They're the ones who recognize that the biggest battle was never between them and the market. It was between the version of themselves that wanted immediate emotional relief and the version that was willing to trust the process anyway.